Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's today is Tuesday. It's August 14th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and I had to think about what day it was for a minute. I had a kind of a crazy day today. I had a dentist appointment. I had a couple of different appointments today, and I've been out most of the afternoon, so I'm a little bit behind. I'm doing this a little later, and I'm a little bit behind on my emails, but I'll try to get them tonight, if not first thing in the morning. So. Pretty good trading day today. Most of this was range-like. I mean, really from time I got here until right here when we had this failed break lower, it was, we were ranging across here, although it had a downward bias to it. And then we were all the way up, and then we just went sideways again. So we went up sideways, went up sideways. I mean, this is like a repeat pattern almost, except that this one was flatter, and this still had kind of an upward bias to it. So you'll see I didn't really mark any shorts, although you could have really traded a couple of these shorts up here, especially this one. Let me go ahead and put this one on there. You can see that resistance across there. So this is a failed breakout, and that's a nice bearish bar. So you could have traded that one. Generally, you want to wait on that lower high, so I'd only make that green. You could, I mean, it's really close to being red, and I wouldn't be afraid to take that trade, really. And then this same thing here, notice that you got a low, there's a first entry. There's not really a second entry here. The second entry is right there. So, but on this one, you got a new low, first entry, second entry. So I'd call it the same thing. It's getting late in the afternoon, and the bias has been up for a while, so the only difference is we do have a new high in place here. Notice this real steep trend working up. You get a break, and then you got a new high, although it pushes up and makes another leg up to a new high before, and it still keeps working higher. You can see this channel's in play all afternoon. Notice we never get a close outside of it until here, and then we attempted a retest right into the close. So fairly straightforward day. This was a little surprising here, but this is why I like failed breakouts. If you caught this one trade, man, that is a nice move up, and you probably would have had a runner on these. And that, I mean, at least I would have ridden it out to here if I was going to exit early. But this was a really nice trend, and there's a shorter term move off these lows here, but it's kind of a spike in channel, and you can see that's a very clear channel working up there. We're bouncing off both sides of it, really. And so it's a pretty clear channel. But let's back out. We'll talk about the trades, and I'll wrap it up. I'm ready to get out of here. I've had a kind of a long day today. But when I came in, we were working lower here. And notice what happens. You had a new high, and you get a first entry, and then you get a second leg down, and you get a second entry right there. Nice bearish bar. It's a little bit of a breakout pullback short as well, and you figure we're probably going to come try to hit this line again, and we may go all the way down to here. There's actually a short-term trend line in there that I don't have drawn, and you can see that. So I like that one because of the failure after two measured legs down. So we probably trapped some shorts there trying to pick a low, and that's a nice move down. And then we make a little fake out and bounce, and we're headed back to the other side now. We come back, we confirm that trend line on the third touch, a relatively bearish bar. It is a second entry short. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry. And so I like going short there. You could argue for a long here, but it actually gaps over. Look at that little double top, and now you got a triple top, and it gaps over that. It would have been hard to get filled except with a limit order. So I'd probably skip that. Plus, you don't have a break of this. This is starting to, I mean, this is looking like a range day, so we're probably headed down here, and that's exactly where we go before we turn up again. So I'd be real leery about getting any longs in here. And we already talked about that trade, and we turn down, we bounce, we come down, we bounce again. If you'd had a real small bar down here, I'd probably might have risked it back to the EMA if you had enough room, but you don't. And then guess what? You get a first entry, and then you get another second entry. I wouldn't wait and go short here. You really don't have enough room. But notice what happens. It breaks higher here, it turns and goes down, and when it breaks below that bar, it's a second entry short. So I wouldn't have any problem going short right there, because this is a range. This is going to be a failed breakout, and if it turns up first and then turns down, we're probably going to trap some longs. And I like that one. And that was a nice move down. And then we get another, we're just going sideways. We get really a lower high here. You can see the resistance just gets lower. I don't see any reason to enter that right there. And this turns out to be a failed break lower. And this was actually a failed break lower too that you might have considered. With that big bearish move, I'm probably not going to look for any longs. I'm going to stick to the short side. I don't see any. I think you're just better off to stay out right there. But then you get this big failed break lower that comes right down and gives you a double test of this low. Notice that low. Tested it once, tested it twice. Nice bullish bar. Look how far away from the EMA you are. I'm gonna take that one on a double test back to the at least back to the EMA. And a lot of times, I talk about this all the time, when you find these major lows, they turn out to be, or when you get these failed break lowers, they turn out to be major lows. And this is no different. It just takes off. And if you just caught this, if this was the only trade you took today, and you held one runner, I mean, easily you could have. This would have been worth riding here, especially when it's riding up that trend line. I would have stayed with it till here at the very minimum. And you're looking at 28 to 38. That's 10 points on one runner. And if you only traded two contracts, that's 11 points, because you would have 1 point on your scalp, and then 10 points on your runner. And that's what I'm always saying. The runners can really change your math. And generally, I won't hold any runners through stuff like this. But if you get a failed break and a bounce off a major low or a turn down off a major high, most of the time I'm going to try to get a runner there, because if you catch one like this, that's basically 10 single scalps, and you can't beat that. That's what really changes the math on this stuff. So keep that in mind. But notice we get a reversal pattern here. We don't get a failed second entry short till way up here. But notice what happens. We can run up here and we push right back into the channel. We pull back. We test the previous support. We bounce off the EMA. It actually goes lower and turns up. They tricked everybody there. Most people don't see this channel. They don't understand how channels work. They're thinking short again, and they don't realize that we've had a break and two perfectly those are basically two measured legs. I hadn't measured them, but I can eyeball it and look at it. You can see there's your first leg. There's your second leg within a tick of a perfect measured move. So after a close outside, a convincing close, and two met legs down, and a bounce off a major low, a double test off a major low, we're probably going higher. And most people don't realize that, and they're still thinking short because we've been getting short every time there's a correction. But they don't understand what the chart's doing here. It was working down to this point. Now it's going to work back to this point, and it actually ends up going higher. So I like this trade. I don't like waiting until the end of this bar, because then you don't have much room in case it gets stuck there. What you have to do is just like this. This is like a repeat pattern of this. It breaks lower, turns, goes up, then you got room to get out. So put your buy stop right above that. Otherwise, you'd probably skip that trade. It pushes right on through again, pulls back, and tests that trend line, confirms it on a third separate touch. You really already had at least 3 touches, but this is like a 3 spread touches. Plus it tests that upper line, and again it goes lower, turns and goes out the other side. I wouldn't have any problem going long right here on this one, but you're better off to go have your buy stop right there in case it goes out, and it did, and you get a little extra room, and off it goes. And you could have caught a runner on this one. You probably would have caught one on this one too, and this one. I probably wouldn't have held a runner on this one, but this one I might have. This one for sure. So actually, if you're really smart, you're holding a runner off this first one, and you may not even be taking these trades. You may just be managing a runner. But you know, I wouldn't have any problem adding on or jumping in you right there. And of course, now we get a break. You get 2-leg correction. Sometimes that's the center of a pattern, so you expect that we may try to go higher. This is a lot of sideways action. But a couple of things I want to show you today. Notice this line right here. I got it off these highs right here and then drug it over to here. and it fit perfectly, because if you tried to use this, it didn't really fit. And so I got it off this and drug it over, and you see it fit perfectly all the way up and down. And I did the same thing here. I wasn't sure how to get your trend line going here, so I worked it off these highs and drug it down, and then it fit perfectly. We had a little overshoot here, and people will probably say, well, why didn't you put it up here like this? Because it does kind of fit up there. But what you have to understand is generally this upper channel would be below this swing. And to give you an example, if your trend's working up, your swings are usually going to be below the previous swing, not above it. And if your trend is working, let me find another example. We're working down here. Notice that this trend line is above the swing here. So when you're working down, you'll usually be above the swing. And when you're working up, you'll usually be below the previous swing. It's not 100%, but 90% of the time that's going to hold true, and that's going to help you make sure you're getting your trend lines in the right place. So back to the trading here. We got this little channel working down, and this is the first close. There's actually a little double bottom here, and so you could really kind of count that as a second entry and a lot of touches. Again, it gapped, so you probably wouldn't have been able to get in it. So it didn't matter. You could mark that one, but I didn't mark it because you couldn't have got in it. It just gapped on over and kept going. But then it bounces right here, and you can see we're swinging both sides of that EMA. Plus, I would figure we'd probably try to get a retest as strong as that trend was. And so that being the third touch, I like going long right there on that bullish bar right off that trend line that I got, drawing it across these highs. I think originally I had it a little bit steeper, but I like going in right there. You get a higher low here, but it's right back into the highs, right? So, but notice what happens. You got that double bottom, so you get a first entry, and there's a second entry right there, but I don't like that one going short right there, because you still got this trend working up. You can see the EMA is still working up, and we're closing on this side. That's a relatively bullish bar. I mean, it's only 3 ticks, but 2 of the ticks are to the upside, and it could have easily closed either way. And so you don't want to go long there, but you don't really want to go short yet either, because this is a good example of trying to pick a top on a second entry, and then it jogs up just enough to stop you out, run everybody's stops, and then the bottom falls down again. But again, this is a failed break higher. Notice there's 3, 4 bars there, and really you might have moved this. Oops, actually I already got it up there. It's right off the highs of that bar and those 2, and it breaks higher. Now I wouldn't mind going short. The trend is still up, but notice of this trend line, we've got a break, and we've got a couple legs up. There's 2 legs in that leg, and then there's another leg, and so you've got just call that your first move, and then call that your second move. So you really had a measured move right there. So then you get that little trap. So I like going short right there, and at the very least, just to ride it back to here and maybe back down to here. But notice it bounces there again, and it actually comes down, and you get a second entry long right here. But there's just too much sidebars, too bearish. But it tries it again, and look, it bounces right off that trend line. But notice it breaks lower, bounces off that trend line, and it breaks lower first, and then turns and goes out the other side again. I'd probably go long right there. It's this trend line. You can see that trend line is clearly in play. It's clearly holding. And then we turn down up there again. First entry, pull back. Second entry, when it broke higher right there, when it broke above that, I'd go long again. And that got you into the 2 o'clock hour. So this turns out to be a pretty nice channel. And, you know, there's a couple longs there. These shorts I'm a little leery of up here, because this has been really strong up here. And even though we're swinging both sides, and you can trade this both ways, you can see we're making higher highs and higher lows. That's an upward bias, so be careful going short. I mainly like this one because it's a failed break, and You might have caught a major high. Same thing here. It just breaks higher than that, makes a new high for the day. And so again, you might catch a major high, but neither one of them do. This is mainly two sideways, really. So, but you never know when you're going to catch it. Just like here, this could have, this may, this you may not have caught a major low. You might have just corrected, looked back to the EMA, and went down some more. But it's worth taking the trade. So, hope that makes sense. But anyway, that's what I saw for today. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm ready to get out of here today. Like I said, I may be tomorrow before I catch up on my emails. I apologize, but I'll get to them in the morning if I don't get them this evening. But I'm done for today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.